there, welcome back to another Craftersations. How you doing? Yeah. Okay. Let me show you what I just finished. So this is a little different than what I normally do. I normally do what are called cut and folds. And this is a mark and fold, so there's actually no cutting involved. I added a little picture loop there. So, yeah, as part of my product line, I guess you'd say, I'm trying to diversify my prices, like the different levels of product that I make, because I love the cut and folds. I love the detail of them, the meticulousness of them, but if I'm being honest, those books should really be anywhere from $80 to probably $150, and that's probably still underselling them, considering how much time they take to do. So in order to be comfortable asking the prices that those books are worth, I wanted to try to start to offer things that would legitimately be in like the $30 to $45 range. And so I think the mark and folds are going to fill that niche. And I'm going to start making more of those photo spirals, and because those are super easy to add into the spine. They just slip right into the spine. They don't even have to be glued in place. So I could even offer those separately, you know, if you want to add a photo option, and it might add some usability, so it's not just a pretty piece of decor that you add to your space. It actually serves a purpose. Yeah, wow, it's weird talking like this. Actually makes me feel like a business person. So here's the next one I'm doing. This one's a simpler one. This was just, it's gonna say dream. I like the font on it, and these come together so much faster. So I think from a business perspective, I think it's hopefully going to be a good thing. So yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. Feel free to share with me what you're working on today, what your personal projects are. Okay, let me get myself situated here. Oh, my cat's wreaking havoc in the background. Because heaven forbid I close a door on her, even though she wanted to be in here. If you have a cat, you know what I'm talking about. So I don't know if you have been around and watched the different Craftersations. You might have been watching when I mentioned wanting to start engaging with my boys through like a prompt journal. It was connected to my conversation about the power of leaving kind of a written legacy behind, and how powerful it can be when you see the writing of a loved one. And so, unlike many of the ideas that I float around, I actually did this one. I found a couple of like the old, like the composition notebooks, right? And then I'm not going to show, obviously, my son's privacy, but I made these little bookmarks that go, come on, are you going to focus? Of course not. Anyway, so I made these little bookmarks that go in them, and it just kind of gives my goal for how the journal would work. And then I have these prompt cards, and so I just wrote, and I didn't fill up the whole thing because I didn't want him to like work ahead and just want to finish it all just to be done with it. So I put prompt 1. Sorry, my cat is like, I'm gonna go let her out. Give me a moment. Hey, come on. I'll just leave the door open so she doesn't tear apart my craft shelf over there. And so I just put the first prompt for him to answer, and then I left it on his pillow. And I got the journal back. He responded. And he responded thoughtfully. In cursive, no less, if you were here for that conversation too. So, you know, being a mom of a teenage boy, you can't over emote because they might, it scares them away. Right? It's like no sudden movements. So I made a little comment underneath and set up a new page with a new prompt and put in his pillow, and he responded again. So I'm like, I got him. I think he actually likes this. That was my older son. My younger son, I actually have to get on him because we did a couple back and forth, but now the journal I haven't seen it in a week or so. So I'm gonna, do the gentle mom thing and remind him, hey, am I gonna get that journal back? But anyway, yeah. Long story short, it's working. Now granted, this is only 3 or 4 prompts in, but still, it could have fallen flat on its face after the very first one. And it didn't. So I might be onto something. I like it. Anyway, so if any of you guys have teenage kiddos, it might be worth doing something like this. And it's also, maybe a sneaky way to emphasize your personal family values, or maybe ask questions to see where your kids are in relation to the influence of broader society relative to where you would like them to be as people. So yeah, I had no idea if it was going to work, and it worked, so I'm super excited. So that's kind of related to, and of course, Facebook, Instagram. I don't do TikTok or anything like that. I can only manage so many social media platforms at one time. I think maybe it's a generational thing, but you see a lot of kind of, joking, comedic reels and such about, if you want to trick the new generation, do this, use an analog clock, write it in cursive. If you want to prevent your car from being stolen, drive a manual, because the younger generation doesn't know how to drive a manual anymore. All these different things, if you want to trick the next generation, or if you want to thwart the next generation, and it's done in kind of a joking way, but from both a parent's perspective and a teacher perspective, and someone who is going to be relying on that generation to keep our country running, as we age up and out of those leadership roles, there's also a little bit of that makes me a little sad. And I don't know if this, I know there's always been tension between the generations. It's normal, it's natural, but there's a meanness to it right now. And I'm sure it's because that's what gets the views and the likes on social media. But I think it's also really destructive. Because each generation has, there's a value to what they bring to the table, right? Whether it's experience, whether it's the willingness to take risks, or the willingness to think outside the box, just the vitality and energy that comes with youth. And so I think when the generations pit themselves against each other with meanness, I think it breaks down those lanes of communication to where we could actually be stronger if we figure out the strengths on all sides of the table. And so sometimes when I see those, I also we're making fun of the younger generation. We're raising that generation. Those are our kids. the kids of our friends and our cousins and everyone else on our level of the generational ladder, they're not helpless because they somehow failed. They're a reflection of the family and the society in which they were raised. So when we point out their weaknesses and shortcomings, like, are we looking in the mirror? Because we're the ones who set them up, right? So it got me thinking about, first, this kind of goes back to one of my first episodes on endangered crafts, like endangered skills. Like, we're making fun of them because they don't have certain skills that we have. Well, are those skills still valid? Are there new skills that they have that we don't? They're just replacing those skills with other things, right? Of course, we always like things that are familiar and comfortable. So we think that what we know and what we do is obviously the most important. So kind of there's that aspect to it. But there's also like the opportunities to learn. Are we making sure that they're having the opportunities to learn? Do we just expect them to absorb these skills from the ether? And then, of course, that's where schools get brought in. Well, why don't schools teach more useful things? Things that they actually need in the real world, like how to do taxes, pay bills, and change tires. And I don't know, that seems like that's asking a lot of a school system to take over the roles of parents and family and the things that traditionally came from the home. Like, you want the school to take the role of your child's parent or grandparent or aunt or uncle. You're giving up a lot of power. The role of teacher is amazing. And I'm not just talking about teachers with contracts in public schools. Teachers' family is the first teacher. So you really want to hand that over to a stranger in a public school system and just say, teach them everything they need to know? And then complain when they don't learn all the skills that you think they should have known, that you could have taught them and passed on? I don't know, that seems a little silly to me. I think it also demeans the purpose of public education, which was to provide access to skills and knowledge that couldn't be found in the home. I don't think the original intention of public school was to teach kids the things that parents and family members were traditionally passing on to their kids. It was to teach the kids the things that their parents couldn't teach them. But anyway, so it got me wondering, like, what role could a community play in this? If the community is tight-knit enough, or if you have a group of people that are maybe dedicated enough, could you create like a common sense college where community members come together and have, offer up the skills that they specialize in? And maybe that is how to do taxes, or how to budget, or how to fix basic things in the home, like leaks, or, check for issues like that. Like, what if, as a community, people acknowledge the things, the skills that are important that maybe parents have lost the ability to do? I'm very fortunate that my husband is a bit of a jack of all trades. But he got that from his dad. And so, cat man. So my boys have access to that knowledge, and I make sure to encourage them at every opportunity. Like, I don't care if you never think you're going to use this skill. Oh my god, my cat. Learn it anyway, because you never know. And I express to them how much of an asset their dad's skills have been, how much money they've saved us, just how much control it's given us over our own lives. Like, we don't have to wait for a professional to come in and do things, because my husband can do them. So I encourage my boys to learn from my husband, and he learned from his dad. And I think that's the normal way that it should go. My brother-in-law, my dad, my grandfather, like, these are all influences in my boy's life because our family is close-knit. But I get that not everybody has that, sadly, but they don't have that. And so, maybe the community, neighborhoods, I don't know, maybe local schools could be the hub for this, or libraries could be the hub for this. Maybe we ask, what do you want your kids to know? Or maybe ask kids, what do you think you need to know to be an adult, to feel confident you can go out and survive on your own? What do you want to know? And then we make an appeal to the community. Can you come in? Run a session. I'd like to think that there are people out there who'd be willing to do that. And then we're not making fun of the next generation because they don't know these basic survival things. We're doing our job as the older generation to make sure that the next generation is set up for success. And knowing that moving forward, we're going to need them. And then we've set up this maybe generational path of knowledge, like I think our human societies used to have, and that have since broken down, whether it's because of the breakdown in the families, the breakdown in what our public school system is versus should be, just the rapidly changing world that we live in, and not knowing what skills maybe will be needed moving forward. I don't know. I think that could be a really interesting system to put in place. Like a community, literally a community college of common sense everyday skills. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that's something that would work in your area? Have any ideas on how you might get something like that started? I hope you got some crafting done. I got a few pages done amidst all of my chatting. And thanks for hanging out with me this morning. Happy crafting.